This is the story of how I taught myself how to ski. I always wanted to learn how to ski while I was growing up. There were 3 ski resorts about an hour from where I grew up, but it was never the right time. First, it was my parents who told me that it was too expensive, and they would take me when I was older. When I was older, it was my coaches who forbid me from skiing, because I might get hurt, and then I wouldn't be able to play. I could see the lights on one of the ski slopes from my driveway, but the whole time that I lived there, I never went skiing. Once I graduated from college, and coaches couldn't tell me what to do anymore, I decided I would finally be able to learn to ski. This was a good plan, except I moved to the south, where there's very little snow. A few high school friends and I decided to get together while we were home for Christmas one year, and we decided to go skiing together for the first time. We'd all played basketball together in high school, so we had all missed out on skiing. We took a lesson and slid down the bunny slope together. It was fun. I realized that it was going to take more than one day on the bunny slope to learn this skiing thing as a grown-up. The next year, we went again, and I got a little better. But I spent a good part of the day relearning the stuff that I had learned before. The next year, there was a warm spell over Christmas break, so there wasn't any opportunity to go skiing. I began to look for the rare snow days in the south, when I would get off school and there would be fresh powder somewhere in the Smokies. This worked for me one time at Gatlinburg and one time near Asheville, but I couldn't ever go consistently enough to get good at it. Each time I got a little bit better, but I spent most of the day trying to remember what I had learned the last time. Finally, I realized that if I really wanted to learn to ski, I would need to plan a trip to somewhere where there would be real snow during break, so I could ski for a few days in a row. I soon discovered ski trips are expensive for a poor teacher by herself. I couldn't find any friends to split costs, so I had to get creative. I couldn't afford to fly, so I decided that I would head to upstate New York. I did extensive research and selected an area with a campground that was open in the winter and inexpensive ski resorts. Old Forge, New York, in the center of the Adirondack Mountain Park, fit the bill perfectly. As I drove into central New York, I was delighted to see snow on the ground. And I found myself a campsite in the deserted campground. It wasn't plowed, so I improvised a little bit, but I figured they wouldn't care. I had a sweet bed set up in my car. Because I drive a Prius, I can leave it running all night with the heat on, and it doesn't use much gas at all. I enjoyed laying in the back, watching the snowflakes melt on the window right above my nose, and I hoped that I wouldn't be snowed in the morning. When I woke up, I managed to get my car out, and I headed to my first ski mountain of the trip, Macaulay Mountain. The ski map looked small and not too intimidating. They had several bunny slopes that I was eager to try. As usual, I forgot everything on the first few runs, but managed to do pretty well as time went on. Oh, I fell a few times, but I got better at turning and being more steady on my skis, and none of my falls were catastrophic or anything. After one of my more silly slips, I heard a teenager in line mention to her father how thankful she was that she had learned to ski as a kid and didn't have to be embarrassed as an adult. I figured she was talking about me, and at first I was offended, but then I realized 2 things. 1, I should be proud that I was challenging myself to learn new things as an adult. And 2, I was glad that she found something to thank her father for. I was pleased with my efforts, but I did watch several YouTube videos about how to ski as I lay under the stars in my car that night. I picked a different mountain the next day. This one was shaped like an upside-down bowl and promised the most snow in New York. For the first time in my life, I skied in fresh powder. It was so much fun. I was able to practice turning carefully and going exactly where I wanted each time. I was able to put into practice the things I'd learned in the videos, too. I passed some students with an instructor, and they seemed to be working on the same things. I wasn't about to pay for ski school, but I took her advice to heart, too. I felt pretty good about my skiing by the end of the second day. The third day, I returned to Macaulay Mountain and was amazed at my progress. I felt like a whole different skier. I rewarded myself with a detour through Lake Placid, where I watched dog sleds and checked out the old Olympic venues. I bought myself a t-shirt to commemorate the whole experience. I returned home satisfied that I had finally learned to ski. A year later, we had another snow day, and I headed off to the mountains. I certainly wasn't headed down any black diamonds, but I felt as though I was skiing as well as most of the other people on the slopes. I didn't have to relearn very much, and I was able to really control where I was going. My persistence and determination paid off, and I now consider myself able to ski.